Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, episode 504 for September 29th, 2021. And how's it going, everybody? I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks for clicking on Ham Nation here on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Really appreciate you all making it out here. So we've got a fun show. Let's dive right in and talk to the host and say hello. How's it going, everybody? Got a new order, so I'll start here with Amanda right over my shoulder. How's it going, Amanda?
Oh, it's going fantastic. You know, it's fall time, which I absolutely hate. And I hate all of you people that love fall time, but we'll talk about that later. Anyhow, we've got a great lineup here. Everyone's going to tell you what they got going on. I'm paying attention to the chat. I'm also going to give you a little tutorial about Sartopo, so stay tuned for that.
Very good. Okay, going up to Gordo. How you doing, Gordo?
Oh, we're doing fine. Tonight we're going to talk about a hunk of metal on your trunk or on your flatbed or whatever. So it'll be a fun time tonight with mounts.
Indeed. And Don's back. Boy, Don, would we miss you? If you saw the last episode, Amanda and I went way off the track. So we're glad we got the professionalism of Don back with us. So thanks for coming back, buddy.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was my anniversary. That's what it was. Yeah,
that's right.
And then I celebrated a birthday on Saturday. So yeah, it's been an eventful week.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Birthday.
We've got Dr. T coming up, a little shorty from her, but I'm studying. I'm going back and revisiting my alphabet. I got some flashcards, A through N, or is it M? Whatever it is. Anyway, I've got them all. I've got the 13 colonies full deck right here.
So you locked it down. You locked it up.
So, yeah,
nicely
done.
done.
First time ever. So yeah, I'm happy about that. Got I just the other day.
I wonder how many people do that like every year. Is that I know people do that. They go out and really go after it.
Yeah, but I saw somebody. The reason that I really, really, really wanted the full 100% clean sweep is I saw somebody who had matted and framed the certificate, and they had all of the cards in a circle or in a square bordering the certificate, and I thought that just looked really, really cool. So that's my plan for these.
Indeed. All right. Well, Joe's back too. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and I'm anxiously awaiting Pacificon coming up in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to talk about a kit that I'm putting together that's part of the QRP activities that I'm participating in at Pacificon. And I'm also going to talk a bit about an observatory that's run by a lot of hams. And it's right here just outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. And we'll talk all about the radios and telescopes and all the neat stuff that they have out there.
Right on. Great. Well, thanks for joining us again. So I think we're going straight to Gordo. He's going to tell us a little bit about antenna mounts. So let's take it away, Gordo.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Josh, and good to see all of you. And tonight we're going to talk all about antenna mounts, and we had a first-hand view of some great antenna mounts.
Hold on for one second, Gordo. We got a weird. I don't know what's going on with Skype is behaving poorly with me right now. So 1 second. I don't know what happened, but Dawn is showing up as you. There you go. Oh, that was weird. Okay, you got it. Go for it.
Well, a very good evening to everyone on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Gordo here, and we're just back from the winsystem.org get-together where we're taking a look at antenna mounts. So, Josh, let's jump right into the Wind System get-together. Now, many of you know the Wind System that was started by Shorty, K6JSI. And Shorty started it many, many years ago, linking up Southern California to Central California to Northern California, and it grew and grew and grew. And this is IRLP, Internet Radio Linking Project, but it's also live radio microwaves as well. Well, Shorty's now doing all sorts of other things. So Steve, K6UFX, is the main man behind the wind system. And every year we have a get-together. And this year we had a nice get-together this past weekend at the Pala, P-A-L-A, resort and RV area just north of San Diego. And as you can see, we took the cam van down there, and there's some of the big hills. We'll say hills because, of course, Amanda has real mountains. But they're the hills behind there. And our big look was all that the wind system repeaters do and keeping them on the air. Now, this is Scott, K6IXQ. I don't know when Scott sleeps, but he didn't sleep the last 3 days at the camp out because he was busy doing all sorts of things and greeting people and making things happen. And Scott is the one that manages a lot of the wind system QSOs, always keeping tabs on what's going through the system. And there may be as many as 80 or 90 repeaters on the air all at once. Well, you can't have a camp out with ham radio operators without food, and that's Mike, AI6 Whiskey Echo, bringing in the food. And now there's Steve and Stephen. Well, Steve on the left and Stephen on the right, N5ZUA. He's got that real deep voice. And on Friday evenings, he runs the TechNet and does a fabulous job. And there's some of the gear that we're working on during this 3-day encampment out at the Pala area. And, of course, we were on the air last Friday night just having a ball as a final get-together that we've not had for a long, long time. Well, Mike suggested we talk about, since we talked about it last week, antennas, VHF and UHF and HF antennas, talk about the mounts and take a look at those 3 mounts that Mike has on his vehicle. Mike's the tower guy. He will climb any tower, any height, any time, and he makes things happen. Thank you, Mike, for taking good care of us all at the wind system get together. But we're going to be scoping in on those type of mounts. Now, for those of you with mag mounts, no, we're not going to nag you on mag mounts. But if you don't regularly service the top of that vehicle, you're going to get rust through the mag mounts that trap moisture underneath. But the mag mounts do work. And on high frequency, one of the biggest questions we get is, do I have to somehow make a metal contact for it to achieve the counterpoise, the ground plane? And what we found out, even that weekend, was no, as long as you got a good mag mount that's going to hold that big antenna on at high speeds, you're good to go. Well, I like a more permanent mount because the mag mount can support a lot of things, but not some of the big taller antennas such as the Outbacker antenna brought in by Don W6 GPS from Australia many years ago. So we need something that's going to be nice and strong. And anytime you're thinking about going HF, we encourage you to be thinking about a small little lightweight line that's going to take the pressure off of that mount because it's taking pressure off of the trunk lid that it's mounted on. It's a little hard to see it, but nonetheless, the little line is there. All right, terminology, 3/824. This is the common high-frequency antenna connection on the ham sticks, 3/824, that threaded doodad right there. When you're going to order a mount, you need to tell them, is it going to be 3/824? Is it going to be a PL type of a mount? Is it going to be an NMO mount? You need to be specific because if you don't tell them, the attachment up at the top may come in a different variety than what you need for your antenna. So when you're looking at these type of mounts, be sure that you take a look and see what's going to be coming out to accept the antenna. The mounts usually come with a little tiny aluminum spacer that's to keep the Allen screws from digging into the inside of the trunk lid. Immediately throw it away or properly dispose of it. You do want to have those little Allen screws dig into the underside of the trunk lid, because that's going to give you a good ground to the trunk lid, and then we'll show you we have a good ground for the trunk lid to the rest of the body. Now look to the left and up a little bit from the very rusty Allen wrench, and you'll see that little tab sticking out. Be cautious. If your trunk lid is not absolutely level with the rest of the vehicle, when you slam the trunk, that's going to dig in. Well, that's got a little rubber doodad. But what that does is it provides stability. Be very, very cautious. Here's another trunk lid mount. It's got a little rubber doodad, and that too will provide stability for some of the larger antennas. Plus, we got some nice silver tin copper braid that's going to be going to the ground. And the Diamond and Comet and MFJ, the Diamond and Comet are the most common of the 3H24 mounts, and they'll hold up all sorts of motorized antennas for high frequency. And as you can see, the mount goes in there quite nicely, but be careful. Take a look at that little tab sticking out to provide stability. And be careful when you open up the trunk that tab doesn't go into your rear window, and, well, I don't need to tell you the rest there. So watch out for that little tab. It's there to provide stability, but it can get you in trouble. Now, you'll notice that when we opened up the trunk a little bit, see how that tab is nested right onto the edge of the vehicle? This is good, and there's a little rubber on it, so it's not going to dig into the metal. And again, that's the 3H24 sticking up. Well, you know, many of these antennas also require a little shunt coil that goes from the antenna to ground. And while you may think that's going to short everything out, on high frequency, no, it's meant to bring up the impedance to about 50 ohms. You can also do the same thing near the radio, and that's with the antenna matching, impedance matching, where you're adding either inductance or capacitance. I like inductance because that will bleed off any static when driving down the road. But wait a minute, not all high-frequency mobile antennas terminate to a 3H24 thread. This is the PL259 type of thread, and that is on the Diamond HF antennas. So take a look. That's what we have there. We've backed out the 3H24 adapter, and you can get the adapter separate from Diamond or Comet, and we've now put on the SO239. That's the female receiving side of the PL259. I got a little bit of looks like fuzz on that cable there just to keep it from scratching or marring anything. But there's the Diamond high frequency antenna that terminates to the PL, and that mount, the Diamond mount, the K400, keeps that antenna absolutely standing tall. And here's more good news. How many of you hams have driven into the garage with an HF or a VHF, UHF antenna? Oh no, what was that noise? Oh, that's no problem. You just wiped out the antenna in your garage door. Well, if you remember, the Diamond antenna, actually each of the Diamond antennas have a little device that allows you to lay it down, but it ain't automatic, so be sure and do that. Those mounts will hold all sorts of antennas, such as the ATAS antennas, quite nicely, quite rigidly, so it's not going to be bouncing around too much. And each of the antennas come with little teeny coax for about 6 feet to get it through the little notch there, which the Diamond or the Comet mounts have, and then it terminates to an SO239, where you can then take a small jumper of coax with 2 PLs and get them to your high frequency radio in your rig. So there's another good shot of, now we're on 2 meters. Yeah, 2 meters 440. And this is not a bad mount, but it is sort of loosey-goosey, and I'm familiar with those. Here's another one on a luggage rack. And yeah, it's a very suitable ground plane, and this one is relatively sturdy because he found an area on the luggage rack that protrudes, put in the correct size hole, and the mount mounts nice and steady. Now here's a motorized mount, also from Diamond. And the motorized mount, if you go into the garage as you normally would with the antenna, accidentally up, it'll lay down. Not automatically. It goes clank, 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 and it lays down. It doesn't strip any gears. But if you decide to back into the garage and you don't have it in the right position, you're going to wipe everything out, including that expensive mount. Well, everybody likes the good old ball mounts. They don't make them quite like they used to do back in the old days. Joe and I and Don remember those. Remember the big ones? Well, that's sort of a small one. But if your vehicle is an older vehicle, it has a little thicker skin, and this is a great way to keep that ATAS going. But here is a ball mount of all ball mounts. I'm trying to get the information where it came from. It's handmade by a ham radio operator, and it is polished aircraft aluminum, and that's a serious ball mount. I mean, look at this thing. That is serious. So I'll try and find out. It'll be a month before I'm back on the show again, because in 2 weeks, Joe and I head for PacificCon, and we'll both be en route. But anyway, I'll get you the details on this. And notice that you can order it either with the SO239 that we see in this one here, or you can also get it in a 3/824 receiver as well. Well, in my old black wagon, I pride myself as saying no holes, no rust, no holes. That's a 76 wagon. Still have it, still running strong. And I have a roof rack with all sorts of antennas on it, and it works out great. But in the rear of the vehicle for the high frequency antenna, I have a strap. Now, only Joe and I would remember those straps. Remember, they clamped onto the bottom of the metal bumper. Remember those days, metal bumpers? And it's pretty good. It's a little loosey-goosey, so I have a little monofilament. And while it's a little bit low, I like the HF antenna a little higher. So the wagon I still have, and we use it regularly. But here's the latest stuff. Well, it's not really latest. It's probably 20 years old. But notice on the van, we've got the HF antenna, and that's made by HiQ, which we talked about 2 weeks ago. We get it up relatively high, and the tip top of that comm van is fiberglass. So the coil is not right next to metal. Here's the key to be able to do it easily, and that's the door hinge on some of these express vans and so on. The door hinges are really strong. So we go with a L bracket on there, and as you can see, got the loading coil, and then above that is a capacity hat, and above that is the whip, and it really puts out a good signal. But the key is that L bracket. Notice the white L bracket just below what looks like the golden bottom of that antenna. And that's a quick release. Push down and give it a turn, and it pops, the whole antenna comes right off. But that's a real heavy L bracket that we have affixed with aircraft steel bolts on it, and that antenna doesn't go anywhere. On the right side, we tried an antenna mount that's sort of hanging out, as you can see by that furthest antenna. That's a loosey-goosey, but the antenna's not on much, and usually it's a smaller one, so we can get away with it. But a big tree, and psht, it's going to be a goner. The other one to the left, that one's on the regular diamond mount, and that one isn't going anywhere. And we encourage you, stick with name brands, because if you don't, even though you dog it down and you get up to 50 miles an hour, it's beginning to start going back and back and back off the mount. Here's another loosey-goosey. It's on the rail of the top of the van, and while it's nice, it's not a real strong one. And again, going down to the bottom of the vehicle for a trailer hitch mount, 3/824 sticking up there. But be very, very careful, because if it's the type where it's got a SO239 on one end and a 3/824 thread at the other, don't forget that white little insulator. But remember, if it's a big antenna like this, as soon as you get up to highway speed, you may say goodbye to it, because those are compressed fittings, and we'll show you right after we get through with the short shots what we mean by compressed fittings. I love this. Here's a fella that we see down at Bolsa Chica State Beach. And by the way, we have the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels and the Canadians, all these aircraft coming to town this weekend, very close to where this fella likes to get, right next to seawater and operating. But it's really a tuned ground antenna. Only a ham could appreciate something like that. He had a monster signal. And you RVers, no problem. You got a big monster antenna. They have motorized mounts that go up that black shaft just to the left of the ladder, and the ladder provides a good ground plane as well, and another monster signal. Now here's Kevin. Kevin is one of our best net control operators on the high frequency after each show, KC7 Fox Peter Fox. Kevin just did the install here. This is nice. It's a solid antenna mount for his 2-meter 440. And for the stake bed of his vehicle, he's got a good mount there as well. And that one is going to be nice and solid. So, Kevin, great job and a great installation. And look at that. Even the bolt he has to hold that antenna mount on is right in place in the proper color. So here's the thing you want to watch out for. This little guy right here. This is the 3/824. There's a little insulation between where it's pressed into the SO239. And what occurs at high speeds? Pooh! And it'll come apart and you've lost your antenna. So be very careful. I like to do something like this and work with a mount like this. Also, if I'm not using a Comet or a Diamond, I like to probably replace these set screws, because on inferior quality antennas, the set screws begin to rust out immediately, and that you don't want. Comet and Diamond, some of the MFJs, they do use stainless steel set screws, and they do a great job. So we encourage all of you to think about a good, solid mount. And in a few more weeks, actually about a month from now, we're going to talk about where to place that radio. And I know, yeah, you place it so you look down and you die. No, you don't want to look down. We're going to talk about remote displays and keeping your radio head up high for highway safety. And a great radio to get up high with highway safety is Icom. But Amanda, let me stand by, because you may have a question or two before we go to Icom. Amanda?
I do, Gordo. This one, you live in the California area, as we all know, near the coast. And we live here in Colorado, and then we got Louisiana representing here, and Nebraska. So my question to you is there a maintenance schedule for paying attention to these mounts, things that you put on your vehicles before they degrade or rust or whatever?
For the high frequency antennas, I like to really make sure, as you can see here, that I've got a nice clean surface that's going to provide a good ground for the grounded part of the antenna system. But you know, as long as you take a moment and put a cap on any exposed SO239 sticking up so rainwater doesn't get in. What occurs is rainwater will pool in amounts in this portion of the mount, and when it begins to pool in there, it's going to slowly eat that away. So that's really about the only maintenance. Every so often, I like to double check that my Allen screws that you see right here are nice and tight, because they're also providing a good ground to the trunk lid.
Okay, one more question. Mag mount versus NMO, go.
The NMO is the most professional mount there is. The mag mounts are good, but they can blow off. Gosh, I had one blow off one time on a rental car. and it really did a number. So I like the NMO mount. And for those that are really brave, we had this question on the wind system last Friday night. Should I bore a hole and put it in the very center of the roof? That would be the very best of a very professional installation. But unless you bored a hole in a brand new roof and provide all the weatherproofing, your YL or OM is going to get pretty upset when water gets in there. So while through the roof is a great way to go, only for the brave and only for those that really know what they're doing. And by the way, you hear about, well, if it's in the center of the roof, you'll get perfect 2 meter and 440 radiation in all directions. On the edge of the roof, you won't get. No, on the edge of the roof or in the center of the roof, your 2 meter 440 is going to work just fine. You can do donuts, and we've done the test ourselves, and there's maybe a third to maybe a half an S unit difference on the side that is flat to where we want to transmit to a little stronger in the angle of the roof.
All right. Well, I have to make this a group question now. So everyone else, NMO or mag mount? We're NMO here. Josh, you?
All mine are lit mount PL259 or SO239. And I actually have the mount that Gordo was showing, the wider one with the little tab. I've got the same problem where my tail lights stick out behind the trunk.
Yeah.
I took a Dremel to that baby and cut that tab off. And I appreciate that's not as strong as it could be, but it wasn't going on any other way. So I made that happen.
Good job.
What about you, Don? Do you have any antennas on your car?
No, I don't at the present time. But when I was running HF Mobile, I would have like a HF like a screwdriver antenna, the little tar heel on one side, and a Diamond or a Comet dual band antenna on the other. Pair of K400 mounts. One was the SO239, and the other one was the 3/8 24, and they worked just fine. Perfectly. I've had those mounts on, I can't tell you how many vehicles, going back to the 90s when I first got licensed, and they've never failed me. But you do have to make sure, like you said, the maintenance, make sure that periodically you go and you crank those little set screws down. And also, you might want to, every once in a while, just pull the mount completely off and make sure you don't have any rust underneath those set screws, because that can jack with your ground just a little bit, especially on HF. And if you're running a, like a lot of cars now have aluminum body panels, you got to be real careful with those set screws, because you can do some damage to it. But on a steel body, just every now and then make sure that you got a little don't have any rust there, or just put a little dielectric grease around there when you first install them, and they work great. And by the way, Gordo, you were mentioning the Outbacker antenna earlier that Don Allen brought in. My farthest contact, HF Mobile, was on an Outbacker Perth Plus, South Mississippi to McMurdo Station, Antarctica, on 20 meters, 100 watts.
Wow. Well, Don Arnold will be happy to hear that. I'll tell him.
That's nice. Yep. I had to tell one story. With our NMO mounts, I remove the antennas all the time to go through the automatic car wash or what have you. And my last pickup truck, I had unthreaded it. And I actually have two stories. The one time I forgot to put the antenna back. So I'm trying to talk on the radio to our local repeater, and people were like, "Why are you so scratchy? This is ridiculous." And it ended up that I forgot to put the antenna back on. So don't do that. Do not do that. Second was when I put it on, I cross-threaded it. So
and now it's permanent.
Rookie mistake. Rookie mistake.
I pull into the driveway, and Jeff was like, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "What?"
Cocked over.
Not supposed to be at an angle, honey. Yeah.
He was not thrilled. So be careful with those.
How about Joe? What did Joe run?
Okay, well, mine is kind of an interesting situation. My first Prius, I was able to put 2 diamond mounts on the top, left and right.
Yeah.
And I had one that had the NMO type connector on it, and the other one had the SO239, so I could use various antennas. One of them generally held my DMR, and the other one had just the regular, it was the quad bander, the 8900. And when I got this one, this Prius has fiberglass body parts, and the rear window glass goes all the way to the edge. So there is no place on the trunk lip that I can attach one. So I'm stuck with a magnet antenna. But in fact, I bought a new one, a Comet, a week ago at the Peoria Hamfest, and it's flat. I mean, it's 1.25 to 1 or less in the entire 2-meter band, and pretty good on 440 as well. So magnet mounts work great for that. As far as HF in a Prius, forget it, because the 270 volt high voltage battery goes through an inverter and steps that up to 600 volts for the traction motor, and vice versa. When I'm slowing down, it goes the other way to charge the battery for regenerative braking. And so the RF noise is horrendous on HF, but it's perfectly quiet on 6 meters, 2 meters, sideband, FM. It's just quiet as anything. 440 is great, 220 is. So as long as you are listening to HF, or believe it or not, 160 seems to be quiet. So somehow they filtered the AM broadcast band and VHF and UHF to handle the commercial broadcast receiver. So, but I do not get any of the inverter noise at all, even on 2-meter sideband. So that's what I do with the Prius. But it has to be a magnet mount. No, I do not use your little 3-inch magnets. I use the 5.5-inch variety that have the real thick rubber base, so it sticks good and hard to the roof, but it does not rust it.
And where do you find the material? I mean, what do you mount it on? Because isn't that all like aluminum or plastic on the Prius?
No, the roof is metal.
Oh, it is.
The roof is metal,
okay.
but the back like spoiler thing and the side panels have metal and then fiberglass that's bonded to that on the outside. So it is more difficult. Now to put in an NMO permanent mount on the back, it can be done. You have to make a custom bracket that gets drilled into the back panel, and it would work.
Somebody in the chat, great question from Sterling, N0SSC asks, has anybody had an antenna stolen? I haven't.
Not lately. No.
Not lately.
I've snapped a couple off. I've snapped a couple off on trees. The Diamond Super Gainer SG7900, I can't tell you how many of those I've broken on trees.
Yeah, I messed one up in a drive-through.
Yeah, and then I went to the Comet, it's the search and rescue antenna. Gordon, you probably can pull that model number off on the top of your head, but the is it?
Yeah, I know the one you're speaking of.
Yeah, right. That one is that. I mean, you can beat a horse until he dies with that thing, and you'll never or anything, a rhinoceros, whatever. Well, no, those are endangered. We don't want to beat horses or rhinoceroses, but you can beat idiot ham radio operators with DX Engineering shirts with them until I croak, and you can't break them. And I will say one other thing, another comment about the chat room. Gordo, you'll appreciate this. Someone mentioned double Gordo. I'm sure they were talking about you. I'm not sure because I can just see it up there. That is my preferred cigar size, by the way. I prefer the double Gordo.
Very good.
Yeah, somebody had a question about RF issues in the Prius, and the only RF issues I had was my first Prius, which was a second generation 2009. And I put a little tar heel on it, and I grounded it, everything, and did well. And the noise level was still too high in terms of receiving. But if you tried to tune up on 15 meters, even if you were parked, the ABS system would trip off. So, and that was with 5 watts. 15 meters.
And Josh has an electric car too, right?
Yeah.
So
I bonded.
We talked about this a
bit. But there are people that use the hitch type mount. They have a hitch put on the Prius, and these places will look at you like, you can't tow anything with the Prius. Why would you do that? and what they do is they mount it, and they have it sticking out about a foot or so behind the car, and then it goes up on a kind of a pipe, and then the antenna mounts above that. And surprisingly, that does work. but you have to ground it well. And it's something I could experiment with, I think, in the future. But for right now, VHF, UHF is how I go. And it's perfectly clean.
I'd have to say pictures or it doesn't exist. So we'd have to see this, Joe.
I do have
pictures.
I do have my video of my Nissan Leaf. I did have to bond all the doors and the rear trunk lid and the hood. Everything had to be bonded together, and then there's copious amounts of Toroids on every little bit of wire that goes into the radio, and it does knock the noise down enough that I can do HF.
I could take it down from 20-30 over 9 to about an S7 with chokes on my first one. This car, I have not tried it.
Yeah.
And I might say join the WIN system, and then you can operate 2 meters or 440 UHF and get almost the same range coast to coast, and sometimes Europe, sometimes Australia via the internet linking.
Right on.
Yeah, you can. Oh, speaking of wires, I'm sorry, I'm at ADD tonight. I just read this story about soy-coated wires and how it is making people's cars get destroyed because the rodents are actually attracted to the soy-covered wires. Has anyone else? I just learned about this, and I feel dumber for not knowing.
I had an issue when I had my 2001 Firebird V6. It was my daily driver. I went out one morning and I went to start it, and it ran like it was on 3 cylinders because it was. It looked like someone had gotten under my hood with wire cutters and cut at the coils and also at the plugs. And I thought, well, that's a hell of a note. So I got my father-in-law to drive me to AutoZone. I got some plug wires and put them on there. The very next day, the other side were that way. And I'm like, what the hell? I got to say, I went through about probably 6 or 7 sets of plug wires because squirrels or something was chewing my damn plug wires off. Yes, soy-coated insulation, soy insulation on wires is a big issue. The only way, I mean, I tried everything. I put cayenne pepper down there. I mixed crab oil and cayenne pepper. Which I mean, it smelled great. It smelled like I was boiling crawfish going down the damn road. But I squirted that stuff on everything under the car, and these South Louisiana and South Mississippi rodents, they like that stuff apparently because it didn't deter them. The only way I finally got away from that is I started parking the damn car in the garage. That's the only way I could keep them out. And my wife is like, well, why do they get your car and not mine? I don't understand that. I said, because I have plug wires and you don't. You've got coil on plug. And then she figured it out. Oh, that's weird. But yeah, no, they love those plug wires. Amanda
and I have something in common when it comes to corrosion on these mobile antennas, and that is salt on the road. And it splashes up during the winter, and it splashes up and gets into the mounts. And so, as a general rule, my antenna mounts generally last me about 2 years.
Wow. Well, we don't have that much salt. But we're in the banana belt of Colorado, but
we get lots of salt.
Yeah, we get the salt here by the Gulf, and that's about it. So
well,
all right.
That was good. Those good questions.
Now?
Let's throw it to Icom.
But
that was good questions, good comments. Thanks everybody in the chat and everyone else. Let's go.
Icom has the base station of your dreams with the IC 7851, IC 7610, IC 9700. And IC 7300 SDR transceivers. Icom's amateur radios are top of the line and are the first choice for contesters across the globe. Robust base stations like these cut through pileups, letting you work the bands and record those contacts. Stay connected remotely with the RSBA One app and keep your competitive contesting edge with Icom. Heard it, worked it, logged it. The IC 7851 gives you a new window into the RF world and is HF excellence unparalleled. With faster processors, high input gain, high display resolution, and a cleaner signal, it's truly the pinnacle of HF perfection. Dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, high-resolution Spectrum waterfall display, enhanced PC connectivity, and SD memory card slot. The Icom IC 7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out the faintest of signals even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling system, 110 dB RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver brings direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal world. This all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy: faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. 4.3-inch color touchscreen display, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels, dual watch operation, and full duplex operation in satellite mode. The Icom IC7300 changed the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great Icom radios.
And thanks again to Icom. Oh, I got a bit of green screen fun going on over there. Everything's always fun live, right, guys? Anyway, want to say a big thank you to Icom for sponsoring Ham Nation here on the Ham Radio Crash Course. We really do appreciate it. And to remind all of you that they do a swag giveaway twice a month. You go to icomamerica/Ham Nation, and the link is in the description to join. They do twice a month giveaways, and the winner of those twice a month giveaways then go into a grand drawing for a radio that they update every month. So they give away a radio every month just to the folks who listen and watch Ham Nation. So thanks again to Icom. We really do appreciate it. We're going to throw to Joe now because he's got a great little talk here. Going to talk about some interesting ham radio astronomers and some kits. Joe, why don't you tell us all about it?
You bet. And thank you, Josh, and everybody here on Ham Nation. And we're going to start off by putting up a picture. And that should work. There we go. That should do it. All right. What we're looking at here is kind of an interesting thing we have here just outside of Lincoln, Nebraska, northwest of town, right next to Branched Oak Lake. In fact, this is called the Branched Oak Observatory. And every once in a while, they have a thing called a Starbecue. And they have a barbecue and invite the public to look at the stars and the sun, see the sunspots and see everything. Very, very educational thing. Now, this is at the location where our Nebraska section manager lives. It's on his property. His call is KA0BOJ, Matt Anderson, and I was his Elmer when he was a kid, so I got him started in amateur radio, and he is now our section manager and owns the property that this is. So they bring out a few Star Wars characters, and there's Luke Skywalker protecting the one of the observatory buildings. There's actually several buildings on this site, and it is now entirely solar powered. They have a shack that has batteries, very large batteries, and solar panels, and they generate the 110 that runs the whole complex. So it's all solar powered. This particular building has a retractable roof. And so it has this deck that has the telescopes, and then there's a room in there with the computers that they use to aim them and observe. This is a better shot of that, and you can see that there's another concrete platform in front of it. And during the Starbecues, people bring their own telescopes. And you can bring your telescope from home and enjoy the darker skies outside the city. This is the new domed observatory, and it has a really, really neat telescope in it, and I'll show that in a little bit. You can see that it's connected through a hallway into a control room, and we'll show you what that is. This is brand new, and the telescope is not online yet, but it will be very shortly. This building here is called the Berman Radio Science Center. and that's named for Doug Berman. I can't remember his call sign, but he is an active local ham, and this shack has dual dipoles on these towers, and what those are for is they are tuned to just below the 15-meter band, where you hear the frequency of emissions from Jupiter and sometimes the sun as well. And so they can observe different fluctuations in what Jupiter is putting out and things like that going on its surface by its radio signals. Right next to it, there's a space before the trees that will have another tower, and it will have an EME array, and they will actually bounce signals off the moon and let youngsters involved in STEM type things to hear their voice bounce off the moon and come back. The small dish that you see on the roof is a Starlink satellite internet. This should be active also before the winter. And like I said, this is all solar powered. This is inside the domed observatory. This is the big telescope, the big one. And you can see it's very well decorated inside. It looks more like the bridge of the Enterprise, except when you look at the next one, there is the HAL 9000, all right? And he's watching you. And there is the control console, and lots of computers and an overhead thing, because you rarely look into the eyepiece of a telescope like that. Instead, it comes through as a digital image. This is kind of a view of the telescope from the main control room down the hallway. And there's the door between the dome and the control room. Everything's climate controlled inside, of course, except for the dome, obviously, when it's open. And next to the HAL 9000 is the map of the area of the sky that they were looking at with this while they're getting it working. There is also another building there that's a classroom and is used for STEM classes. And this particular one, that evening, they had youngsters making planispheres. And what that is a little thing that's designed for your particular latitude, and you turn that to the date and time, and it shows you what you're going to look at when you look up at the stars. We were also able to look at sunspots as well, and saw like 4 or 5 active regions. So it's really good news when we see those sunspots. This is also in the classroom building, and it was quite an active place with the people making the planispheres. Very nice facility, all in the big backyard of our Nebraska section manager. And like I said, people were bringing out their own telescopes. A lot of these platforms, you'll see signs on them, and that's because they are sponsored. And lots of donations went into making this place possible. And this is the retractable roof building just before sunset is complete. And so you can see that the telescopes are now aimed to look at a target. This is another building on site that has a video room. You can watch space and astronomy videos, and there's a full library in there. The reason for the red lights is because your eyes adjust a lot better to full darkness if you're in red light as opposed to white light. So on nights that they're doing observation, all the lights are red. And that is at sunset. You can see the red lights are on in the main dome, and they were turning that. They're just getting everything ready. It's not all ready to be commissioned for people to watch yet, but it will be very shortly. Now we're going to turn to a kit, and this is a kit that was kind of shepherded by Doug Hendricks, KI6DS, and it is a regenerative 40-meter receiver, and he is having us all put those together, and we'll kind of compare how well they perform once we get there to Pacificon. At Pacificon, we're going to make a matching transmitter to go with this so we can have a 40-meter CW station. And we're also going to make a code practice oscillator that actually is programmable and has practice sequences and stuff that you can copy that come from it, all from a CPU. And so we'll be building, like I said, we'll finish these kits at home and we'll bring them there and compare them. And then we're going to build a CW transmitter and a code practice set at Pacificon. These are the parts that went into this. Mine is not complete yet. I still have to do the hard part, and that is the toroid. But you can see there's quite a few parts in this one. I thought I'd take a look here and show people when you're putting a transistor in on a circuit board, this is the way I secure it to the board so that it stays at the right height and everything, and it's a lot easier to solder, because what I do is I bring the solder tip down to the pad so that my solder tip is touching both the pad and the wire, and then I bring the solder to it, and then I put the solder on it. Now, if you get up too quick, you're going to have kind of a blob that's not making good contact. So you want to just keep that tip there for a little while, and you'll see that the solder starts flowing into the hole. And as you retract the soldering iron from it, I pull it along the wire. So you end up with something that looks like the top of a Hershey's Kiss. And let's see here. And so that's what it looks like when it's soldered before we trim it. And so you can see each one flowed real nicely into the hole, and it looks just like a Hershey's Kiss. And that's the appearance that you want those wires before you trim them. And this is what the board looks like now. Missing the toroid, that's the last thing. And then I need to hook some wires to it to connect a speaker and to a couple other things on there. I think there's a CW filter controller, audio filter control switch that I need to add to a couple of the holes there, a little toggle switch. But it has a 10-turn pot on it. It is regenerative, so you got an RF gain control, a volume control, and a regeneration control. You have a DC input power jack, and you have the BNC for the RF. And the round circle on the left, that's going to be where the toroid goes. And I kind of put it off. I try to do those first, but I kind of put it off. And that is the kit so far, and hopefully by sometime tomorrow I will be testing it and get it all ready to box up and bring with me to Pacificon. We can compare notes with the other kit builders. So, Amanda, that is all from the world of kit building here, and let me do this, and now there I am.
There you are. I have one question at least. Brett Glass wants you to know, I avoid heating the pad because I have lifted the traces off the board when I've done that. How do you avoid doing this?
I avoid doing that by not having the heat turned up too high on the iron. I usually set my heat for about 630. The only time I run the heat up full is if I'm desoldering, like I'm using solder wick. And the solder wick helps wick away the heat as well as the solder. So it keeps that from happening as well. And you don't want to pull up real quick with the solder wick so that it does not lift up the trace. But use as small a tip as possible, usually about the same width as the pads that you're working with. And I use 6337 solder, and it's rosin core no clean. That's why if you noticed on the bottom of the board there was no brown blobs. It's pretty clear or non-existent. And once again, I keep it around 630 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Be quick about it too. If you solder faster, then you don't have
as
much.
You don't go too fast because, like I said, if it doesn't flow all the way into the hole, It's not going to hold that part in.
So it's not just in the wrist; it's also technique and temperature. It takes. It sounds like it takes a little bit of practice to get this perfect.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I really enjoy it when I get to show other people, like I'll be part of a group that's putting these kits together at the same time, and I'll be building them for the first time along with them. And I'm sure, like most group kit builds I'm at, if I'm not leading it, I'm certainly going to be helping a lot of people. And it's a lot of fun, because if you take 30 seconds and show them these little tips, they're going to enjoy kit building a lot better, and they're going to have a lot more success. And like I said, 30 seconds with a soldering iron in your hand, and I'll have you making Hershey's Kisses.
I like Hershey's Kisses. All right. Where do we go from here? Don.
Don. Let's talk to Don.
Yes, we could do that. We're going to get into the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. We're going to see what Dr. Tamitha Scove has up her sleeve right after I show you my double Gordo.
There you go.
There you go. So now with
cigar.
Yep. And now let's news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. 3, 2, 1.
From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2291. This is Ham Nation Headlines for Wednesday, September 29th, 2021. We begin with a story that shows the power that amateur radio can have in the lives of children, especially those who've been hospitalized for a serious illness.
It was a remarkable 10 minutes that students and patients at the Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. are not likely to forget. A question and answer exchange on Tuesday, September 21st between an ISS astronaut and the young patients in the Pediatric Acute Care Hospital in America's capital city. The ARIS contact was arranged with Seacrest Studios, the educational space inside the hospital, to continue patients' education while they're receiving treatment there. The space and communications component is coordinated with the help of the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, NASA, and the local Alexandria Amateur Radio Club. Instead of using an on-site amateur radio station for the contact, it would rely instead on a multi-point telebridge with Claudio Ariotti, IK1SLD, in Italy, eliminating the need for a large gathering of people. The patients stayed in their rooms, connected to the action via an iPad with the help of a hospital staffer. JAXA astronaut Akihiko Hoshide, KE5DNI, was ready and fielded 16 questions using the call sign OR4ISS. During the 10-minute pass. More than 1,300 students and patients from kindergarten to 12th grade enjoyed the event, along with 500 parents and 400 professionals. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kevin Trotman, N5PRE.
Next year's Bouvet Island D-Expedition has been given its latest financial boost, and it's from the ARRL.
The 3Y0J Bouvet Island D-Expedition, considered one of the costliest ever, has been awarded $5,000 from the ARRL. The amount given to the non-profit Amateur Radio D-Expeditions organization, which is based in Norway, is the same sum given back to the ARRL following the Intrepid DX Group's cancellation of its Bouvet trip after the ship planned to carry them there was sold to new owners. Amateur Radio D-Expeditions and its 12 operators are planning a November 2022 activation with a goal of 120,000 contacts. The team will be on the island for 20 days. The grant is named for Silent Key's Lloyd Colvin W6KG and Iris Colvin W6QL and supports international DX teams to foster global goodwill. The D-Expedition's $650,000 budget makes it among the most expensive ones on record. The team earlier received a $100,000 donation from the Northern California DX Foundation and a gift from the German DX Foundation that is the equivalent of $11,815. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Skeeter Nash, N5ASH.
If you've been in the mood for a ham fest lately and you're going to be in the area just northeast of New Orleans, I have a recommendation for you. 2 busy days of amateur radio activities are on tap for attendees of the Slidell EOC Hamfest, sponsored by the Ozone Amateur Radio Club. It's going to be held in the Slidell Auditorium, with doors opening at 2 p.m. on Friday, October 8th, and at 8 a.m. on Saturday, October 9th. Entrance for the public is through the lobby doors. Hamfest Chairman Dave Hartley, K5OZ, reminds everyone that masks are mandatory for all indoor activities in Louisiana, so they'll be required to attend the Hamfest. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. To find out more about this great Hamfest, just click on the website, w5sla.net, and then click on the Hamfest button at the top of the screen. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting. at arnewsline.org. With Kevin Trotman, N5PRE, Skeeter Nash, N5ASH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT, at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe, I am Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now here's a solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Space weather this week is definitely holding our attention. As we take a look at the Earth-facing disk, you can see bright regions in the north and bright regions in the south. Those two bands right there are telltale signs that solar cycle 25 has really taken hold. I mean, look at the sun. It looks like it's lit up like a Christmas tree. And on the far side, we're seeing a lot of activity as well. So this is good news for people who are looking for solar cycle 25 to really take off. In fact, the solar flux has now jumped up into the triple digits once again, and it may actually stay there or stay close to there this time around and be like that for quite some time. Now, as we take a look at region 2871, this is really good news as it begins to rotate off of the west limb. Wham! Right there on the 28th, it fires off a solar storm. Now, it looks like the solar storm's going west of Earth, but coronagraph views show us that this thing is actually Earth-directed, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Meanwhile, we also have region 2880. This is the new big flare player on the Earth-facing disk. As a matter of fact, we even have a 5% chance of an X-class flare from this region right now. It's been growing explosively over the past couple days, and if it continues to grow like this, I guarantee you we'll see some big flares from this one. So we're all keeping our eyes on. Meanwhile, we also have a few other regions, including region 2877. That region also is an M flare player, so we're keeping our eyes on that as well, and we could see a lot more activity in the days to come. For more details on this week's space weather, including when and where aurora can be seen with that Earth-directed solar storm and how those big M flare players might affect you, come check out my channel or see me at spaceweatherwoman.com.
Another great report from Amateur Radio Newsline and Dr. T.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we're going to Amanda to talk about, what is it, Amanda? What do we call this?
This is I'm going to show you another mapping capability. So this is another tool that you would want to put in your belt for other times. I use this sometimes for airy stuff. So I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay.
As soon as I find that option. There it is. Right. So this is used in search and rescue quite a bit. And what it's called is Sartopo.com. And you can have a paid subscription to this, or you can just use it, things like that. What I wanted to show, this is kind of like, I think this is an easier tool to use than starting in Google Maps to plot out some of your area's activities. So if you're doing a 5K, 10K, maybe a marathon, maybe a 50-mile bike ride, those kind of things. I wanted to show you, this is just available to anyone without the paid subscription, right? So I just wanted to show you how easy it would be to start a map and maybe start your aid stations, your checkpoints, your start-finish line, things like that. So, and again, this is used in all of the search and rescue world. And I think that the greatest thing that they just did, and I can't show it to you guys because I couldn't log in as a search and rescue person because it had proprietary stuff in there that they didn't want everyone to see in this little right-hand bar. But it also now allows you to implement APRS into it, which is really, really cool. So if your search and rescue teams are out there looking for a lost hiker, things like that, and you want to follow their tracks, they can bring in their APRS. Your tell me, I have one right here. Hold on.
Is this for APRS?
Oh, yeah.
This
And
is
I
cool.
can't
So
get it, please.
can anybody make an account for this?
Yes. Yeah. All I had to do was have my Gmail account and I could log in.
Cool.
So what I wanted to do is I'm doing a 5K, 10K run this weekend at the Royal Gorge Bridge, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful site. And I'm going to move to the satellite image just because it's prettier, because it shows mountainous. And the Royal Gorge Bridge, if you're not aware, is suspended about 1,000 feet over the Arkansas River. So that's where the race finishes, is right here. So let's start there and make a marker. So you can just click on here, marker, and have a label. And we're going to label it finish. And the comments would be what ham is going to be there, handling comms there. So let's K0JSC. Let's say Jeff is going to be there. And it's going to make you a marker there. And then they have a size for the marker, so you can make it bigger so you can find it on the map easier. I like large. And you can change the color. Red is good, though, for most things. So there you have your finish line. And then now, I'm sorry, it wants me to save this, but okay, we'll save it later. But anyhow, so then we want to put our start line on here. So we're in the parking lot, and this is where the start line is going to be. So we right click again and hit marker, and we're going to hit start. And that's where I'm going to be because I'm the coordinator. So I'm with the event coordinator the whole time. And then you can go to your aid stations and name them appropriately. And you can see it has a start here. I don't think that the type is very big, and the finish here, it's not that easy to read. But again, this is made for search and rescue, but is free for everyone to use. So the next aid station is right at this little loop area here. It's going to make a marker. Put aid station 1 manned by this is what I start with my mapping. And then from here, because Google, I don't know about anybody else, but I find Google Maps really, really, really hard to A, build a map, and B, export it. So this is where I start, and then I can export this as a KML file and get this to my volunteers and get them all on the same page. And it can be interactive, so they can import that into Google Earth or anything else like that. So this would be our next aid station 2. And I just find it's just a really handy tool. And the other thing about it, and this is crazy, so maybe Gordo can relate to this a little bit, but it has the Latin long on it, but search and rescue folks a lot of times use UTM. So you can also find those coordinates as well. And I'm working with my search and rescue a lot. They also, they deal with the Flight for Life is what we call it in most places. So Flight for Life uses lat long, but search and rescue uses this UTM, and you have to convert it. And this will help you do that. So, I mean, not only that, but if you see here on the right-hand side, you can click little boxes like show me structures around. So this is kind of a rural area, so there's not a lot of structures. So I'll scroll out. There's the city. So then you can see the structures. Okay. Fire history, fire activity. These are interesting things. So we've had wildfires around here. So the Royal Gorge Bridge fire, which practically burnt on the whole bridge, it shows you the old burn scar.
Oh, wow.
I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, that was a horrible year, 2013.
That was horrible, yeah. Yeah.
So you can do that. Fire activity. I'm going to have to scroll out a bit for this because we're going to see California here. But wait for it. You can see all these spots of fire activity.
Whoa.
So I just found this really interesting. Again, another tool in your belt of things that you can use. Geology, I don't even know. I should probably change this from the satellite imagery to the normal map. But
Wow.
Geology, public lands, so you can see everything. It's kind of fun. And again, they just this year incorporated the APRS function into it. So that's really, really helpful because a lot of our search and rescue folks are also hams. So it's kind of a game changer, actually. So I look forward to what all they develop with it. So let me stop sharing my screen.
Well, before
here.
you do, Sterling in the chat is asking, what in tarnation is happening in Arkansas? What's all those red dots over there?
Yeah.
What's all that?
I don't even know. That is fire activity.
Whoa.
So let's take away the public lands, and all of this down here too. I am not knowing, and it seems more active than California, right?
It certainly looks like it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Arkansas maybe whiskey stills.
Whiskey stills on the air.
So
is that
there
what we're
is
going for?
Yeah.
There is that. Weather shading, wind plot, and avalanche.
That's interesting.
I like that.
It is.
What a cool tool. Is this available on Android? Because this is just a website, right? So you should be able to use like your Android tablet or your iPhone.
I see the.
That's a good question.
I see the Apple and Android little icons down there in the lower left. So yeah, he looks like.
Oh yeah, there it is. Get the app. Oh, I got to do that. I'm doing that after the show.
Hey, is there anything for tropical weather on there?
Tropical.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, like hurricanes.
Well, I see weather shading. Let's 24-hour low. Precip. 24-hour precip.
Yeah, that's not going to show anything like
Nah. Snowfall. God help us. It's not snowing yet, but it might.
Give it a minute.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on that. The wind plot, it comes up with little directional things, like shows you which way the wind is blowing.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you for sharing.
Sartopo. Yeah, very cool.
I thought it was pretty neat.
I think so.
I really did. And we use this all the time. This is this whole like add a marker thing. This is what search and rescue does. Like if they're trying to find a missing person, they will, and this is probably, I didn't even think about this. So totally relatable. During the whole Gabby and Brian laundry thing, this is probably what they used to make little markers to say found a piece of possible evidence, and they'll just keep moving on. So they just mark it on this or call it in with the coordinates, and somebody else marks it on a map. And this is seriously what they use. So
I like
that. Is a great resource.
Yeah. All right.
Great job.
Hey, and while we're talking about emergency stuff, and we mentioned weather, I wanted to give you guys a quick update on we're 30 days past Hurricane Ida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when last I was on the show, which was right after the storm, there were 1 million people down here with no power. And 30 days out now, mainly everybody's back on, with the exception of some people who were down in the really hard hit, really rural areas down in Cajun country and Bayou country. And I think there's like, last I heard was like a couple of thousand people down there without power still. But to go from 1 million out to just a couple of thousand people in the outlying areas is absolutely amazing. And for all those linemen who came in from all over the southeast and the southwest to help us, man, just it's so cool to see those lineman trucks come rolling in after something like that. It's just it's like the cavalry is here. So yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good down here, and I'm really happy about that.
Speaking of emergencies, go ahead, Gordo, take it away.
Oh no, I just want to interject. Everybody was asking where to get that big ball mount. Thanks to N1OP or NI0P. Brian, thank you. Breed Love Mounts. breedlove.com. Breedlove, BREEDLOVE mounts.com. That's where you can get that wonderful ball mount and probably a host of others as well. All right, Amanda, back to you. Thanks.
Okay.
And you hit a tree with that ball mount, it'll take your whole fender off. And oh, by the way, Gordo, meet double Gordo.
Double Gordo. Speaking of emergencies, we have what the ARRL puts out every year. We all practice this, is the assimilated emergency test. And it usually takes place the first weekend of October. So if you hear extra activity on HF or possible emergency traffic, make sure you listen and make sure that they don't repeat in there. This is just training. This is training purposes only, exercise, that kind of thing before you take it too seriously on HF. And if you copy a bunch of WinLink messages or intersect them, that's what it's about. So, Gordo, you participating this weekend, or you guys have another weekend involved?
We're doing the big air show here in Huntington Beach, right on the water with Blue Angels and Thunderbirds and the Canadian Snowbirds. So we'll sort of have our own almost for real exercise. But yes, I'll be taking part at the same time with Orange County Races, as well as an Aries group, as well as the Coast Guard. So we'll be busy.
Very good. Yeah, I'll be doing that 5K, 10K this weekend, so we can't participate, but we've moved it back. So with that, I think we're about ready to wrap this up.
Well, kind of. We got to talk about our fun certificate, right?
We have a thing, yes.
Yeah.
I'm always going to leave out something.
So we've got our certificate here. The link will be in the description. I think I'll add it right at the end here. But if you made a contact with us for the 500th episode or during those 2 weeks that 2 or 3 weeks that we ran, you can go to this website, or you might even gotten an email for it. If I do my call sign, which I believe I made a contact with Randy, if not more people. Yeah, sure enough. Now, if I type in my call sign and I get my little certificate here, I can download it as a PDF or a JPEG, and then you can go ahead and print it or do whatever you'd like to do. This is actually a .psd, so you can actually get a pretty high fidelity one there. So, very good.
The link is on our Facebook page. I put that on there this afternoon. Today was my day off, so I put that on there this afternoon. And for those of you who don't do Facebook for one reason or another, the link is also on my QRZ page. So just look AE5DW up on QRZ, and you'll find that link there as well.
Very good. And I'll just throw up that Breedlove mount since I pulled it up while we were talking. There it is. There's that ball joint right there.
Man, that's a monster.
That's an SO239. They have multiple different options for ball mounts. So, yeah, breedlovemounts.com. Very good. Okay. Well, I think that will wrap it up then. Do we want to mention nets, Amanda? Is there any nets?
We do. We have a 20-meter net, should be on about 14,268, 40 on 7192, 14 Charlie for the D-Star net, which started about 19 minutes ago, and DMR 31012. I'd love to thank all of those great groups of net controls and for being here every other week with us. And don't forget, our next show is October 13th.
Very good. I will say there is no Discord after chat today. I have a bit of a stomach bug, so I'm probably going to go lay down after this. So I hope everybody has a good evening. Just relax and hop on the nets and have fun. So go around the room, starting with Don. Any last words that you want to mention before we wrap things up?
No, just it was a good show. I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys last week, but did have, or 2 weeks ago, but we had a wonderful anniversary dinner and just enjoyed celebrating our 37th wedding anniversary. So,
wow,
congrats.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
So, Joe, how about you? Anything you want to mention? I know you're going to Pacificon soon before
yes,
probably the next episode.
And for those who are on the West Coast and are going to be there, I will be there and giving a seminar. I'll also be helping Gordo, and I'll be active with the QRP group in the evenings, building kits. So I'm going to be busy there, and I would like to meet all my readers and viewers out on the West Coast when I come to Pacificon. First time in 9 years. I'm looking forward to it.
Very good. Gordo, anything you want to mention?
We will roll out the red carpet for not only Pacificon, but maybe those QSL cards that Amanda is brewing up. And Josh, get rid of the bug, and I'll see everybody the week of Halloween. So not in 2 weeks, but in 4 weeks. See you soon.
Very good. And then we'll throw it to Amanda for the last word, I think.
I got nothing. Stay tuned. We're going to bring on, I think the next session, we're going to be talking about how to prep your station for fall, winter time, things that you should be looking at, things you should be doing if you hadn't already done it this summer. So
okay,
we're going to look for some lessons learned.
All right. Well, thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Josh.
Yeah, well, thank you all. I appreciate Dawn being back, too. So very good. Anyway, this Saturday, I'll be doing my live stream on APRS. It's part of the Patron Picks episode.
Cool.
So all the patrons have voted, and they want to talk about APRS some more. So I'm happy to oblige. I love APRS. Well, with that said, everybody, you have a great rest of your week and have a wonderful weekend. And until then, 73.